guess just the boy this week. Tyler's still out in international waters celebrating his lovely marriage. So shout out Tyler. But should be a fun week today. How you doing, Bookie Brooke?
Not too bad. Excited for the games, even though it's not that sexy of a week this week for college football.
I hear that a lot, but I think that's where kind of the gems pop out. Or like I
Oh
think
yeah,
this is going to be a sneaky fun week of college football. And I mean, we don't get like an Alabama and Georgia matchup like we did last week, but I think there's still a lot of juice. Let's see what
oh
which is
yeah.
one ranked versus ranked matchup being Missouri and Texas A&M.
Yep.
It's sloppy, but
Like
I mean, I think this slate was made for us specifically.
I think there's going to be a team that like no one expects to go down goes down this week.
Well, one team that I certainly didn't expect to go down that already went down was TCU. I mean, that's a firestorm in Fort Worth. That's awful.
You kind of felt like Houston was due to like have a decent offensive week, but the fact that they just could not score on Houston was crazy. Like they're averaging almost 40 points a game, and at home to lose like that is nuts.
And as you brought it up, Houston hadn't scored a point in 2 games. It's like
Yep.
Iowa playing a ranked football team. They just can't score, and all of a sudden they get to Fort Worth and light show,
I mean, that
unbelievable stuff.
backup
I mean,
quarterback lit
I
him up.
guess I guess so. I wonder what the points on that game was
It was
going
like
into it.
TCU like minus 17, I think.
That's crazy.
And to lose by double digits as a 17-point favorite, it's pretty
Yeah,
nuts.
sheesh. Yeah, TCU's in trouble. Um, and boy, I just can't stop thinking about first of all getting blown out by SMU, where Sonny Dykes gets ejected from the game. Um, and I think that's his second trip back to Dallas since leaving ship for TCU. So bad look for the Frogs. Um, also bad look for Kansas. Let's not forget TCU beat them by double digits last week. So Kansas is cooked. The Big 12, I as usual, I have no good read on.
Yeah, they're just one of those conferences that like people change so much throughout the year. Like obviously everybody thought Utah was going to be the team and no Cam Rising again and they get beat by Zona. Um, right now I think it's K-State's race to lose, but I mean, I hate to say this, but Colorado's going to factor in right now at
Yeah,
least. They factor in because they only have one loss, but
and I mean
who else?
if they keep playing like they did last week, they're absolutely going to be a factor.
Yeah.
Very unfortunately, Iowa State's got a good path. BYU, I think will
Yeah.
fall off eventually, but I mean they're in the driver's seat right now, so they still have a mulligan in their pocket essentially,
Yeah.
and
Well,
favorable paths.
they
Oklahoma State's cooked. Uh,
theoretically BYU and Iowa State could still lose two games and like
yeah,
I
depending
mean
how
they
the
would need
teams
stuff,
fall.
yeah, how they fall, but yeah. I mean right now those two are sitting the best with BYU having the tiebreaker over K-State.
I still like Kansas State to come out of there. I think I finally figured out what I think about Avery Johnson. I think Avery Johnson's a very good football player. I think his
Not a great
quarterbacking,
passer.
yeah, not a great passer, but he makes plays even through the
He
air. So he
does.
good football player. So I'll give him that.
Dude, you know who his comp is to me is Taylor Martinez. Electric with the ball in his hands.
That's a good that's a
But
good
like
comp.
he can hit the long ball. Taylor Martinez was great at that, but like those intermediate and short throws, just not his game.
That's a really good comp.
But an electric runner.
Outstanding. And yeah, he just makes plays. I have nothing else. Oh boy, Kansas is 1-4. I didn't even realize they were doing that bad.
Dude, I mean, their defense isn't great, but like Jalen Daniels just isn't getting it done.
Sheesh. Weird year, weird week. We'll take a look at how we did last week. Unfortunately, another bad week for the boy. Also, I kind of wanted to start doing these on Saturdays. I'm like, we gotta change something up for you.
Dude, I am just I mean, it's just one of those years where it's like you just thoroughly take the opposite of whatever I say.
And I did some math, so I'm up 2174 on the year. So if you started,
Holy crap, dude, you're having a
yeah,
great year.
So if you're writing me from the start of last year, you're only down like $2,300. So you're sitting in a lot better shape. But yeah, hot start. 5 for 5 last week, and
Dang, who
honestly
did you all
didn't.
have?
So I had USC plus 15 or minus 15 and a half, and they
That
needed
was a
all 60
lucky one.
minutes to cover.
Yeah. Holy
Um,
shit.
Illinois and Kentucky 17 and a half points and got with them. Not really
Damn.
sweating
Kentucky
through
was a
there.
great call.
Yeah, that. And if you remember, I was almost taking Ole Miss just because of how much I adored Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin. I was like, you know what, this isn't gonna keep printing me money. So I had to pull the little fade there. Then the Bengals had them 4.5, ended up winning by 10, and then Nebraska minus 10 was the big one. And that one was sweating for the first 30 minutes. That one
Yeah.
I didn't think had a chance of hitting,
Yeah.
but shout out the
There's
Sturs.
there's definitely like a fine line and like you can't ignore like Vegas and who has a lot of money on them, but like there are some teams like Purdue and I'm sure there are other ones where it's like it almost doesn't matter because they're so bad.
I think so. You're absolutely right. Um, let's see here. So we'll move on to this week. Um, like I said, kind of a gritty week, a sickos week. I'm hyped for it. Are you ready to get us started?
Yeah, if you got one locked and loaded, send it out.
I'll start, and I was going back and forth on this one, whether or not I wanted to be bold and take the money line, but I like Cal with 10 points. If nothing else, I saw TCU go on a weird run 2 years ago, and the thing that stuck out to me was their insane Twitter presence, and the algorithm's real, and I'm seeing a lot of similarities there. So just because of the Twitter army, this feels like one of those fluky seasons where the algorithm takes over. So does Cal. So I'll take the points. I'm not going to go that bold and say they're going to upset Miami, but I'd watch out.
I like that. Game day's there. Um, yeah. I mean, Miami had to travel. They're not making that one a big deal, but like all the
That's
factors there
not nothing.
point. Yeah, it's definitely something traveling that far across the country. So for my $100 one, I'm gonna take over in Pitt, North Carolina. I think it's 64.5 right now. North Carolina's defense we saw gave up 70 to was it James Madison,
Yeah,
and Pitt like plays in those high scoring games too. So I don't know. I think that one will be a track meet.
I love it. Let me see, $200. And I didn't have this on my slip, but you brought it up just how bad Purdue is, and now they're making a change in offensive coordinator. So give me Wisconsin minus 11.5 at home. This feels like they're kind of how Nebraska was last week. We're like, this is really our opportunity to flex our muscles a little bit and pick up a convincing win. I think Wisconsin's in the same boat this week. They need it. So yeah, 12 points.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
I'll swallow that.
I just don't know who I want to take for my $200 one. Hmm. You know what? Give me a late game. Give me Zona minus 6.5 at home, if that's still what it is. I think it's 6 or 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5 is what I got here.
Yeah, I think uh, they're a great football team. Texas Tech being 4-1 feels a little fraudulent to me. And Zona can put up points, man. So I like them. Less than a touchdown.
Yeah, Texas Tech is such a weird beat, but then they pulled out a couple of close games. So and we were just talking about teams in the thick of it for the Big 12. They're technically in it still, which is insane
Oh
to
yeah.
think about. I feel like that's
Who
the
was
trap
there?
that we've.
Yeah, K State's their only loss.
In this one, I just saw, because we are also talking about just dog shit teams. Arizona State's only 2.5 point favorite over Kansas at home. This kind of feels like this, in a way, feels like a trap, like Missouri and Texas A&M, where I feel so strongly about Arizona State covering easy that I also feel uncomfortable about at the same time. I'll pull the trigger on it, um, but I'm already very nervous about it
All right.
for nothing like
I don't
football
hate that.
related.
Yeah, I feel you. I have a gross one I like for my $300 bet.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's so gross. I hate it. Oh man. Give me Vanderbilt plus 22 at home against Bama.
That's a lot of points.
It is, and you think probably the biggest emotional win they'll have this year. I think this is kind of a hangover spot for them. Shout out Tyler.
Yeah,
I
he
know
would have
he'd
loved
hate
that
that.
take.
But also sneakily, I love Diego Pavia, quarterback for Vanderbilt. I think they can move the ball and score enough points to keep that one close.
Yeah, I don't think this Vanderbilt team is as memeably bad as we're
Yeah,
used
they
to.
beat Vautech week 1, so it's not like they're an incompetent team this year. Like this team could sneak their way into the bowl game with how bad the bottom half of the SEC is.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out. Can you repeat that one more time?
Oh, sorry. I said this Vanderbilt team could sneak their way into a bowl game with how bad the bottom half of the SEC is.
I'm going to be honest. You weren't cutting out. I just wanted to hear you say how bad the SEC was. 'Cause I think you're
You
absolutely right. The
fucker, I
bottom
was
of
checking my internet and I was like, God damn it.
no, the bottom of the SEC stinks and nobody talks about it, and it
They're
bums me
so
out.
top heavy, man. It's like the top 6 or 7 are so good nationally, and the bottom 6 or 7 are so bad nationally. Like I don't know if there's that much difference in any conference across America.
You're absolutely right. Because I mean, looking at the Big Ten now, you got teams like Indiana, Illinois, Rutgers that are typically
Yeah.
towards the bottom dwellers. Like they would cruise against the middle of the SEC.
Oh, for sure.
$400 bets. Thought about pulling the trigger on the Drew Russell special with Iowa State and Arkansas. I'm gonna sit on that one for another week. But $400 bet here. I'm gonna take Michigan and a point and a half. Not because I have much faith in Michigan, but I do think Washington stinks.
I hate to do this, but I'm taking the exact opposite side from my $400 one.
I respect it.
And with how bad I've been this year and how good you have been, I feel like there's a clear winner and loser here, and I am the loser. Um,
I will say I'll gladly sacrifice this $400 bet if that means that Michigan can't beat up on a very clearly rebuilding Washington team.
there's just something. I mean, I get Washington, being at home, Michigan, long travel, but like you see it with Miami. Miami's a top 10 team, and they're a 10-point favorite. And Michigan is a top 10 team, and they're a dog. Like, obviously, there is something that Vegas sees here that is just Michigan's going to go down. And I've been saying Michigan is fraudulent ever since they got whooped up on by Texas. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to be. I did get burned pretty hard by Michigan in the USC game, so maybe I'm a little bit
So
less
did I.
skeptical. So tough spot there.
Well, it's just USC just couldn't stop the run. That was it. Not like Michigan threw the ball on them. They just could not stop the run.
Yeah, they just played exactly into Michigan's lonely strength.
Yep.
Oh man, $500 one. There's not a game that I feel that great about.
I
Um,
got mine.
lay it on me.
Clemson minus 16.
That was pretty nice.
Well, it's just I think Clemson's on a warpath, and DJU might not play for Florida State today. And then their backup's the one who played in the ACC championship, and he was like 8 of 20 for 50 yards. I mean, they might not give up a point, and they could score 60 on this team. So I don't see a world in which this one's close.
I mean, you mentioned the DJ you might not play. Is that a good thing for Florida State? I mean, I know their backup isn't great, but I mean, we've seen a couple of
I
teams
I think
with pretty
he's
highly rated quarterbacks, make that change and end up being better off for it.
and see the thing is, I don't think this is one of those cases. If Florida State would have brought in someone young to like back up DJU, I could see that, but like with what they have, oh no, I don't see it.
Just filling out Tyler's slip here.
So say Rutgers.
Um, let's see where else we're going. We're gonna go SMU here for our $500 bet. It gets 7 points, and SMU's been on a hot streak lately. Blew out TCU, blew out Florida State. Now, granted, those teams aren't nearly as good as I think their brand would lead you to believe, but they still took care of them like they were lesser schools, which
Oh yeah,
have been awesome. And I like Louisville. I'm still not a Tyler Shuck believer, but if you're giving me
yeah,
7 points, I'll take the Stinks.
I agree with that. I mean, Louisville could very much win that game, but after losing a tough one to Notre Dame, you just got to question. Like this is a tough team to play after an emotional loss. So if they're not on their P's and Q's, they could easily go down this week.
I think you're
Love
right
that.
as well. I think we got a good slate here. Trying to think of what other bets Tyler would hate. I wish I could just bet on a team to. Oh, you said Alabama was a hangover spot. I'll
Oh yeah.
give him that one as well.
Just give him
Yeah,
a bunch of ridiculous ones like UCLA money line,
that's a good one.
Auburn money line. What
Does
else?
anybody have a look ahead game? What does next week look like?
Um, Oregon had a look ahead game because they play Ohio State and
That's
they
right.
didn't cover. Um, I'm sure
Oh,
I could
Texas
find
and
one.
Oklahoma are out next week. I know they.
Who's Iowa State got next week? I bet they got a look ahead spot. They haven't played anyone yet.
See, they play Baylor this week and Central. Nope, West
Nope,
Virginia
they do
next
not.
week. I'll look ahead spot there. Let me
USC?
just look.
Oh yeah, USC's your look ahead spot, baby.
Oh, where are they
They
at
got
next week?
Penn State and
Oh,
they
okay.
got yeah. Oh
That's
man,
perfect.
Minnesota on the road. Yeah, that's your look ahead spot.
I love it.
Hell yeah. Watch some of these bets hit that we give him.
No kidding.
You just have to erase them.
Yeah, that's right. They don't count. All right. I think we had a good slate here. I think we're gonna.
It's a real. This is if you love college football, you're excited for that. This is a real sicko slate.
That's absolutely right. Boy, any final thoughts before we head off for the week?
We need to take care of our demons and win a one score game this week because I don't. I would like to think we could blow out Rutgers, but the way they play, they're going to keep it low scoring. We like to pound the rock. I mean,
Yeah,
this
they're
is
gonna
a
try to
week where
move
I
it
could
around.
feel Rutgers has good DBs that DR could get tested. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over and we just play solid, we should take care of business. But man, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
Got
see.
to fix our demons.
I think so too. And I mean, going into the bye week, imagine losing this game and like having to sit on it for an extra week.
Well, I think it's just like if we lose this one, there's no hope for the rest of the year. None.
Yeah,
Like the best thing we could do is make a bowl game. And like when I say make a bowl game, I think our ceiling is 7-5, which after year one with Rule, we were sitting at 5-3 and in the driver's seat of the Big Ten West. Going 7-5 the next year with a 5-star quarterback would feel so awful.
yeah, it would. And the way I've said is like 7-5 would objectively be a step in the right direction from last year, but it just feels like you leave a lot of meat on the bone. Now, granted, I think Illinois, Rutgers, and Indiana are all better than I thought they were going into the season, But Nebraska's also a lot better than I thought they would be, especially
Yeah,
offensively. Dylan Raiola's been outstanding. The new wide receivers have been just as good as advertised. The running game is we're still kind of waiting on that to pop off.
yeah.
But hopefully we see a lot more Johnson tonight. So and hopefully
And
that adds a lot
it
to it.
wasn't that we necessarily like lost to Illinois. Like they're a great team. They're ranked. They deserve to be ranked. But it's the fact that we were at home, 400 consecutive sellout, and it felt like we kind of folded there at the end because we were up in the first half. We were up in the second half. We got a big turnover by Sayer Wright late in the fourth, and then like we just couldn't do anything. Dylan Raiola missing Lindermeyer in the end zone. Like that's just the opportunities were there for us to take a hold of that one, and we just couldn't. That's what sucks about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We didn't necessarily lose to Illinois because I think they're a better team, which they very well might be. It just felt
Yeah,
like typical Nebraska fashion where we outplay a
yeah,
team for 55 minutes and then find a way to blow it
yeah.
in those final 5 minutes of the
Illinois
game.
does what they do best. They hung around, and then they found their opening to take advantage of us, and they did. And it sucks because that's one I felt like we needed. But USC is not as unbeatable as I thought, and Wisconsin and Iowa aren't unbeatable. So the path to 10-2 is still there, but it's looking very grim right now, I'd say.
Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot today on how this
Oh
team
yeah,
kind of responds. Like, can we get back-to-back weeks where we have
yeah. And that Indiana
better
game,
stuff?
that's going to be a banger in 2 weeks.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
That's a big
that
one.
is
It'll
a
only get bigger from
huge
here.
one.
Awesome. I love it. Nebraska's making me nervous already. Any
Oh
final
yeah,
thoughts before we wrap up?
go Big Red, baby.
Call Big Red.